My name is Talia. I am a sexual assault survivor and a survivor of grooming. So I met when I was 14. I was a freshman in high school. It was lunchtime. I was hanging out with my two best friends at the time. I'm just going to call them D and S. D said something, I think, mildly perverted, which, as you do at that age. And I think at that time walked up. He was 19, is still in high school. I think he'd been held back maybe a year or two. I don't really know why. I don't think he ever told me the particulars. And Dee makes that comment. And I looked at her, and keep in mind, I'm very innocent. Obviously, I had the whole purity culture, save yourself for marriage, virginity. I was very innocent. And as soon as she said that, I don't know why it popped out. I looked at her like, well, I'm still a virgin. I mean, I told you this. And suddenly lights up like a Christmas tree, I don't know, and looks at me like I'm something to eat, maybe. From that day forward, though, kind of would follow me around the school, and he would try to talk to me, and I wasn't really interested. Told him where I lived. And unfortunately for me, it turns out he lived like 3 blocks from me. So he started showing up at my house, would come to my door, come and talk to me. And then he started trying to make it, and I'm not going to say romantic because that's not the right word, more like just sexual. I told him no a lot. I stayed away from him as much as I could. I didn't really know what to do. I mean, at that age, you don't really have the wherewithal to be like, go away, leave me alone, whatever. He was also friends with my best friend D, her brother. So unfortunately, he was at their house a lot too. One night, I'm spending the night at her house, and it was a night that her parents happened to be out of town. And he showed up over there, and I was just like, oh, okay. At some point, he managed to corner me in her brother's room. And mind you, this is after months of him like following me around, showing up at my house, constantly pushing me, trying to kiss me, trying to touch me, continuously telling me he wanted to take my virginity. Like, it seemed almost like that was a for him, like something that he was just really, really into. It was just he and I. And he started kissing me, and then he somehow worked me back on the bed. And I was like, I don't want to do this. I'm like, I'm not ready. I don't want to do this. And he's like, no, we're going to do this. Like, you really need to do this. I think you need to do this. I told him no, and I told him I didn't want to, but I just gave in. I froze. I was just like, whatever, get it over with. So I remember I leaned back on the bed, and I was just like, okay, that's enough. I'm tired, whatever. Maybe if I let him, he'll leave me alone. He'll go away. This won't happen anymore. I did let him have sex with me. Your first time should be something that you choose to do willingly with somebody that you want to do that with. And he kind of just took that away from me. So shortly after that, I got up, I left the room, I was crying, and Dee just kind of looked at me like, I think she knew at that point that it wasn't okay. And so she pulled me to the bathroom, she got me a towel, I took a shower, whatever. He and her brother left, so they left the house, they were gone. He kept coming to my house. He made school for me a living hell because he told everyone that I was like some kind of, I guess, and at that age, that's like the worst word that you could ever brand a little girl with. The people in my group, along with the people who had heard the story, like, how can you cheat on his cousin with him? How could you sleep with him? My 9th grade year and most of my 10th after that were not easy for me. I got a reputation that was very undeserved. Dee actually was really defensive of me for a long time. Dee looked after me. She kind of told people to shut up and leave me alone, and so did S, but it was really kind of the males in our friend group, that made my life kind of hell after that. A 19-year-old man, what are you doing with a 14-year-old little girl? Why are you chasing a 14-year-old little girl? The next real incident, and I think I blocked out a lot of it. I think in between this, there was a lot of him coming to my house and groping me on my front porch and that type of thing. But the next one I really remember, we were in my guy best friend's pickup. So we've been out, and I don't know how he had wound up in the group of people we were in that day, or how he had joined us, but he was there that day. He pulled me aside and he goes, "We're going to get in the back of the truck and we're going to have some fun." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "No, we're going to ride in the back. Like, we're going to get in the bed of the truck, you and I, and we're going to have some fun." So we're driving down the road while he's pulling my shorts down and proceeds to, again. And I was, by this point, I was 15. This was the summer, next summer. I was 15 and he was 20. There were several more incidences like that over the summer. I mean, he'd find a dark corner, or he'd find a room that, that nobody was in when we were at their house, and he'd pull me in, and I was just letting it happen at that point because I was exhausted of fighting him. And I'm just like, okay, get what you want and leave me alone. It stopped about the time I met my husband, Josh. Summer I was 15. It was that summer I met him, and then we started dating the next winter. And showed up to my house one day while Josh was there, and Josh just looked at him, and he straight up walks up to him and he says, "If you come near her again, I'm gonna make sure they never find your body. That's not a threat. That's a promise." Yeah. After that, he left me alone. I learned, my husband and I got married in 2002, and we left East Texas, left to go overseas. He was in the Air Force. And we came back. And when we came back, shortly after we came back, I found out that he had been arrested for assaulting another 15-year-old girl. He was 30 at the time when that happened. What finally brought me forward was in 2019, another girl who actually was married to him. She was 15 when he found her. And they wound up married. She has his kids. She's got a daughter with him. And she was telling me that his daughter, when he handed her I think she was 12 at the time, his phone to use or something, he handed it to her with something inappropriate on it. Like, because they were in his gallery or whatever, and he knew she would be scrolling through his gallery, is what she told me. And her mother was like, knowing his penchant and his age, was like, okay, this doesn't feel right. And then I'm like, okay, let's do this. So she actually reported, what happened to her. He actually coaxed her, groomed her, conditioned her when she was 14. Another one this happened to, she was 16 at the time. One who was, I think, 17, another who was 14. And I know that there are at least 2 more that aren't ready to come forward. Altogether, there are 5 of us. The report was given, I believe, in 2019. He was arrested last year. He is still in jail. He has decided to take a plea deal. None of us know the particulars of it just yet, but I do know that the particulars of the plea require him to take a deal for every one of us. Both of my parents also worked a lot, so really it was just my grandmother home a lot of the time, and she wasn't, terribly vigilant about. She wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to where I was either. She was quite a bit older, and she was legally blind, but most of the time when he was there, it was my parents weren't there, or it was super late. Like, he would tap on my window when it would be 2:00 in the morning. We're sitting on the front porch in the dark, and there's nobody there. Later on, yes, my dad did, I think, kind of start to get an idea of what was going on. My dad he's got anger issues. He has a temper. So I didn't think to tell him I was scared of what would happen if I did. Not what would happen to me, but, like what would happen to him, what would happen to my family if I did. If I tell my parents, I tell my dad this is going on, my dad's going to kill him and my dad's going to go to prison and I'm going to lose my dad. I did have the wherewithal to tell my mom. My mom is a nurse. Like, hey, Mom, I'm thinking about being sexually active. Can you get me on some kind of birth control? And after what happened in the truck that day, I was scared I was going to get pregnant. That's actually did happen to one of my good friends, that another of his victims. She was 16. She was very, very at a party, and he kind of had his way with her while she was half conscious. They have a son who is almost, I think, 22 now. From that party, she was 16. She got pregnant our sophomore year, and that was him again. He would make threats every now and then. I think he's very much a narcissist. he still to this day insists he did nothing wrong. Being 14-year-old little girls, I don't know what he thinks our fault was. But he's very much a narcissist. I didn't come from a bad home, but my childhood was very tumultuous. I had a lot of things going on. There was a lot of things going on in my family, and I think he preyed on those of us who had that not necessarily bad, but tumultuous home life, because, we're not that our parents don't intend to give us that self-esteem, but they're busy with other things. I mean, survival and, keeping a roof over our heads. I had really low self-esteem at that age, like really low self-esteem. Like I had the worst body dysmorphia you can imagine. He, I think, knew how to walk the line of violence versus like love bombing. Like, you're so pretty, you're beautiful, you're so perfect for your age, you're so smart for your age, you're so, you caught my eye, which, yeah, like that's really something, like a predator, right? He's just, he's a terrible human. He is. 19-year-old, 20-year-old, 24-year-old men who were, telling a high school girl that she's beautiful, or, hey, I like you, or, hey, I mean, no, that's absolutely just, no, it's predatory. It's predatory. They're predators. They're looking for somebody that age because women their own age know they're predators. It kind of continued on probably until in about late 2000, like I said. So it would have been this summer I was 16 that it stopped. So started when I was 14, ended, shortly after I turned 16. I cannot put a number on how many times it happened. I would say over 50, probably more. Like I said, I blocked a lot of it out. After that happened, I never let anybody else touch me, really, until I met my husband. It took me about a year before I could, really have any kind of, real intimacy with him, which is actually one of the ways I knew he was the right one. Horny teenage boy, and still patiently, faithfully waited for me, told me it was never going to be an issue with us because he loved me and he would wait. And there are still now, I have touch flashbacks. It made me very cautious. I didn't tell my parents about any of this till I was 25. As far as having a daughter, having my daughter, and then having had this happen to me at such a young age, it's almost like a panicky feeling as she gets older. She's 9 now. And we have this saying with her at bedtime, which is, tell me the things. And she says, my body, my rules. There are things I'm trying to do with her. I'm trying to teach her how amazing she is, and how powerful she is, and how beautiful she is. And I want to imbue her with these things that I did not have as a kid. She's getting older, and I sometimes have just these crying fits where I'm like, I don't know how I can protect her. And I know it's completely unreasonable, but I think it's like a trauma response. The touch memories are difficult, and they're very fleeting now, but there's a smell of a certain alcohol that'll do it. Really cheap will do it. Anything else that came along, like I said, for a long time, I wouldn't let anybody, touch me. It's maybe for somebody else, it could be somebody putting their hand on your face, and it makes you recoil because it will throw you back to a really bad memory that you have. For me, sometimes, being intimate with my husband, it'll just be like an unexpected move, like his hand, just on a certain part of my body, or something that I remember really vividly from that year, that he touched me. And now it's just like, and I'm just kind of moved to avoid it. And they were really, of course, upset about it. I mean, you find out your daughter's been assaulted, how are you going to feel? So my dad just he shook his head, and he was like, I knew there was something. I just didn't know what it was. And my mom was kind of the same way. She said, we saw the changes in you. We knew there was something going on. We knew. They were really, of course, upset about it. I mean, you find out your daughter's been assaulted, how are you going to feel? I remember her asking me questions like, hey, are you okay? Is there anything you want to talk to me about? You seem kind of weird today. Are you okay? And of course they're like any other parent. They're wondering why a grown man is trying to hang around with their teenage daughter. I kind of wish somebody had noticed like just how much time I was spending on the phone with this guy, or why he just started showing up to my house kind of unannounced one day, out of the blue, when he hadn't at that point been like really a part of the friend group that I'd already established. I don't know, maybe ask my friends, hey, is this something, that is she seeing him? Is she, is there something going on that we need to know about? Ask him when they come home crying, like, why are you crying? Or, when they seem upset, why are you upset? Which is, are there things my parents did, but, where we get to be good liars. Talk to your kids, make yourself a safe space for your kids. You should be the first safe space, the first place that they go with their problems. There is nothing wrong with you. You are strong, you are beautiful, you are perfect, and you have done nothing wrong.